Welcome back, everyone. In several videos, we've explored numerous pre-Islamic legends about Solomon. We traced their origin and development, and noted a striking resemblance to the Qur'an's Solomon stories. This is something we see frequently with pre-Islamic folklore, and it raises serious questions about the orthodox view of Muslim sacred scripture. In this video, we'll look at another detail in the Solomon saga, in chapter 27 of the Qur'an, after we read about Solomon talking to ants, but before Solomon applied a test to the Queen of Sheba that the Qur'an's authors adapted from Jewish mysticism. A bird is mentioned, but not just any bird, a very special bird. Solomon surveyed the birds that had reported for duty, but none was good enough. He asked for another bird. Where is the hoopoe? It better have a good reason for not being here. Soon the hoopoe showed up and said, "I have encompassed what you have not encompassed, and I have brought you reliable news from the people of Sheba." Out of all of the birds that could have done the job, it was the hoopoe, specifically, that the Islamicized Solomon wanted. But why? It may not surprise you to know that many ancient cultures built up various traditions about birds. For example, the Greeks had prophets who would make their predictions and divine other forms of insight from observing birds. But the hoopoe was special. Because of its physical features, migration patterns, and its name, it was very significant. Here's one example. In Timothy Shum's article on the topic, he notes that the ancient Greeks came to understand the hoopoe as a weather prophet. People ranging from Egyptians to Arabs believed that the hoopoe had the ability to find water underground. So when you look at Muslim commentaries on the Solomon stories and read things like this from the venerable Tafsir ibn Kathir, now you know where that comes from. The hoopoe would look for water for Solomon in the various strata of the earth, just as a man looks at things on the surface of the earth, and he would know just how far below the surface the water was. When the hoopoe showed him where the water was, Solomon would command the jinn to dig in that place until they brought water from the depths of the earth. Another interesting fact is that due to the physical features of this bird, it became associated with the god Apollo. This in turn led the hoopoe to be associated with Kirkos, the sacred hawk of the solar Apollo. This association of the hoopoe and the hawk would later be taken up by Greek natural science, which considered the hoopoe to metamorphose into a hawk at certain times of the year. This could account for the close relationship between the hoopoes and hawks placed on the lips of Muhammad in the Hadith. So this could be another example of the vast amounts of material the Hadith compilers borrowed from the Greeks, suffused with new meaning and authority, because, Muhammad said so. But there's more to say about the Qur'an's portrayal of the bird. We already saw it has a special ability to travel, and it's uniquely observant and wise. Part of this characterization likely derives from its name. Shum's article cites R. Drew Griffith, the professor of classics who wrote an article on the hoopoe's name, who called attention to the fact that this name has a strong resonance with the Greek gerund beholding. The term beholding in Greek religious culture was identified with the mystical knowledge of the advanced initiate, who in the mysteries of Demeter passes from ignorance to the furthest limit of vision and knowledge. The concept of mystical knowledge is related symbolically to the bird's status as an airborne creature, which looks over and beholds the world and has the capacity for long-distance travel. In The Birds, Aristophanes attributes the wisdom of the hoopoe to its travels to Egypt, Elis, and Locris, which, as Griffith notes, closely parallels the hoopoe's statement to Solomon in Qur'an 27:20-22, the verses we read earlier, concerning his travels to the land of Sheba and his knowledge thereof. This article does also consider a biblical background for the hoopoe, but that's unlikely. The Bible's mention of the bird is brief, and it's only in passing, really just citing animals that are unclean and therefore unfit for consumption. It's also not mentioned in connection with Solomon. So the Qur'an's mention of the hoopoe, along with the rest of the Solomon legends, must be from elsewhere. Instead of the biblical background, Egyptian and Greco-Roman traditions associated with the kingship, wisdom, and magical power of the hoopoe are more consistent with a depiction of this bird as the servant and messenger of the prophet Solomon in the Qur'an and in subsequent Islamic traditions. Thus, the persistence of the hoopoe in Islamic and Muslim literatures and folklore is best understood as due to its use as a highly evocative symbol and literary motif, which includes tropes that go back to classical and late antiquity. The Qur'an tells us of the hoopoe's ability to travel to far-off places and speak from the depths of its wisdom. The Muslim commentaries recall its ability to locate water underground, and the Hadith likely allude to the close association between the hoopoes and the hawks. Remember, the former can sometimes change into the latter and back again. This little unassuming bird tells us so much about how the Islamic sources, including the Qur'an, were compiled, using traditions circulating back in the day. It's remarkable how the speech of a bird can become the speech of Allah. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time.